Welcome to I Read a Book with Chris, with me, Chris. I'm currently about 20 minutes outside Glacier National Park, and I'm going to talk to you about this book I read, Time and Again, by Clifford Simak. This book was a book I got in my recent haul, and when I asked, what book should I read? And this one was chosen for me. A book from the far future was his ticket through time. Time and Again by Clifford D. Simak. And today I am drinking Polar Black Cherry Seltzer, sparkling water. The Time and Again is set in a world in the far future where man has left the solar system to take over the galaxy. Most of this taking over the galaxy is by individual men sent out in spaceships, and is held by many of these other solar systems are held by a single man and a bunch of androids and robots. Androids are biological human beings that are created in a laboratory, and robots are mechanical human beings. They're both as intelligent as humans, but are not considered human. Our hero, Asher Sutton, is one of these men sent out to this world that every time they've sent someone to it, they've basically bounced off the solar system, which is not supposed to happen. It's not there's no magnetic interference, there's no physical interference. They can't figure out what it is. This one guy, Asher Sutton, manages to get through and return. When he returns to Earth after 20 years, his overseer is warned of it by someone claiming to be from the future, telling him, you need to kill Asher Sutton. It turns out he should not have been able to survive. His ship, when it came through the atmosphere of this other planet, broke through with such speed that he should have died. In fact, we find out he did die, but the creatures who live on this planet aren't creatures, but are actually the embodiment of destiny. He dies and is, after spending a few years, I don't remember exactly how long, he is brought back to life and is sent back in a spaceship that is completely destroyed, that is not safe from the vacuum, without any water or food, in a body that does not need to breathe or to eat or to drink, but he is still human. When he gets back, his boss is told from some guy from the future that he should get killed, and they go around trying to kill him. A guy challenges him to a duel. It's the best duelist who's killed 17 other men in duels, but the duelist dies. Asher, after killing him in the duel, wins a third of his estate, including an android and an asteroid out in the asteroid belt. This android that he wins is part of a secret underground android collective who are fighting in a time war all over Asher Sutton, because Asher writes a book that will change time. It is a holy book. It says that all life is worthy of life. All androids, all animals, everyone and everything, robots, all of them deserve life, which goes against what a lot of people want, because they want to keep these androids working for them and to own them as property. So, a lot of shenanigans happen traveling forward and backward through time. And there's some interesting themes that this book brings up. There's the idea of slavery, obviously, and what it means to be human and to have value and to have worth. There's the idea of a holy book and what the value of that is. What would happen to a holy book if it was made in a time where there was time travel? It just so happens that time travel is created just a few weeks before Asher Sutton writes this book, and this time war between three different entities goes on over period of thousands of years where they jump back and forth trying to change little bits and pieces of the past in order to make things more likely. There's the Android Coalition, who just want Asher's book to survive. There are the revisionists, who want it to mean all human life is worthy of life. All other life is not. It's He didn't mean it when he wrote it. And there is a third group who is trying to stop Asher from actually creating it. This is the only part of the book that we get are the first few lines. We are not alone. No one is ever alone. Not since the first faint stirring of the first flicker of life on the first planet in the galaxy that knew the quickening of life has there ever been a single entity that walked or crawled or slithered down the path of life alone. That's it, he thought. That's the way I meant to write it. That was the way I wrote it, for I must have written it. Sometime, somewhere, I must have written it, for I hold it in my hands. What would happen? I'm not sure how many of you know about historicity of the Bible or the Torah or the Quran. There are a lot of questions with modern historiography about which parts are legitimate, which parts are not, which parts are added later, which parts are not. One of the endings of one of the Gospels is believed to have been added later. Most scholars agree that it was a later addition, and the question becomes, if that was added, what else was? For the Torah, if there is a mistake, if there is a smudge of the letter, it is no longer considered that, and it has to be sent out to, a scribe, who will then go and correct the mistake. If there is a smudge for whatever reason, they have to go and fix it because it needs to be a certain way. The Bible is not that. There are differences between different scripture that I have. That seems to be in this. What's going on here? Is there a one true version, or are these revisionists trying to change it? Which is a very interesting concept to be in a science fiction book. Another concept he talks about quite a bit is destiny, and he struggles with it throughout the book. What is destiny? What is free will? At one point, he finds a letter that is from 8,000 years ago from his ancestor that he manages, that is found in a trunk in the attic of his house. He goes, he opens it up, he reads it, and it's basically saying, it's a letter that says, this is a weird thing that happened to me, and he describes, without knowing it, a time traveler who came back and lived with him for 10 years working as a farmhand because he got knocked out and his ship was lost. Obviously from the future, even though the guy writing the letter does not know it. He just knows it's some amazing wrench. He's confused about it, and he's writing it down for posterity because he's like, I know this is something that if I don't want to say, but I want to keep it written down because this is such a strange thing that happened. Sutton figures out where this happened, goes back to the time, because he thinks one of the revisionists, one of these people who want to change his book, is there, and he's going to be able to take this wrench, knock the guy out, and make this guy stay in the past. Turns out the revisionist knocks him out, and Asher then goes and tries to find his time machine, but his time machine is at the bottom of a river, and the sands have gone over it. He's lost the key to get into his time machine, so it's just lost. When he comes out, he realizes the river has gone and taken his clothes, so he has to go steal clothes in order to become a farmhand, and he's stuck there for 10 years. And he starts to question, what is foreordained, what has to happen? He knows, because the letter is written 10 years after this happened, and it talks about this farmhand who came out of the blue, the farmer realizes later, hey, I think this guy stole my clothes, but it was sometime after he had hired the guy and likes the guy, so can't bring it up. But he says, hey, this happened 10 years later. So he knows that this guy's a farmhand for 10 years. He knows that he is a farmhand for 10 years. But after 10 years, after the letter is written, what happens. He doesn't know, but he knows some things are preordained. He knows everything is preordained. Everything is his destiny. It's going to happen the way it is. And part of it, he knows what it is. He knows that he is stuck in the past for 10 years, but he doesn't know how long after that. So, right after those 10 years are up, and he knows the letter is written because of the date that the letter is written, he finds one of the revisionists who is watching him. He hops back in, is sent back to the future. It's weird. Here's some of the section about destiny. And it sits within my brain as it sits within the brain of no other thing. For I am one with it as it is no other thing. I know of it with a dreadful certainty, and they do not know it at all, or if they do, they only guess at the great immensity of its truthfulness. All must know as I know. But there is something going on to keep them from knowing, or to twist their knowledge so their knowing is all wrong. I must find out what it is, and I must correct it. And somehow or other I must strike into the future. I must set it right for the days I will not see. I am your destiny, the answer had said. Destiny, not fatalism. Destiny, not foreordination. Destiny, the way of men and races and of worlds. Destiny, the way you made your life, the way you shaped living, the way it was meant to be, the way it would be if you listened to the still, small voice that talked to you at the many turning points and crossroads. But if you did not listen, why then did you not listen and you did not hear? There's no power that could make you listen. There's no penalty if you did not listen except the penalty of having gone against your destiny. So that's weird. So there's destiny. There's time travel. He knows what happens. This is obviously time travel that involves one timeline. There's some time travel that creates different timelines from the previous timelines, and sometimes are wiped out. Sometimes there's different timelines, and there's just, instead of being one, whenever time travel happens, there's 2 or 3 or 7 or 15 timelines. And here there's one timeline. When he goes back, he's going back the way things are happening. They're trying to change the past. If they can change the past, if that even is the thing that makes sense, he knows this is the way things happened. It is foreknowledge, but it's not foreordination. It's not fatalism. It's destiny. It's how do you have free will and destiny. And apparently you can have destiny and not follow it. There was no penalty if you did not listen except the penalty of having gone against your destiny. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like time travel, is because every time where there is time travel and you go... There's some time travel where you just go to the past 100,000 years ago, like if you go back to the time of dinosaurs, you live in the time of dinosaurs and you come back now, the only real difference could be like the butterfly effect or something. What if you change so much, were you able to then change the past? If you stepped on a butterfly, would that change everything? That's a possibility. But generally in time travel stories, where you go back into your own past, or at least into recent human history, and you're jumping back and forth throughout your own time period, there is the question of what you know to happen and if you can change it. If there is a way things are, and whether that can be changed or not. There are some where you can change it, some where there's logic, some where there's not. This whole idea of destiny or predestination or foreordination or fatalism, they're all the same, really. I mean, they aren't the same, but they all touch on the same subject of how if the future is set in stone. If there is a way that it's going to be, and if you can change that, if you have any impact on it at all, or whether you're just acting out. There are a few other interesting themes that this has gone into. One of the main things I'd like to say about this book is, so it is, 256 pages, and it's 52 chapters, which is just under 5 pages a chapter. I really enjoy short chapters. Sometimes long chapters work. It all depends on the story. I'm not much into thrillers, into fast-paced action. For a 250-page book, it read pretty quick. I really enjoyed the chapters. It jumps back and forth between a couple different people's perspective. There's Asher Sutton, who's the guy who writes the book. There is Christopher Adams, who is his boss, who is trying to figure things out, who is confused because time travel has just been invented. It's not actually a thing. It's just someone has proved that it's theoretically possible at this time period where he starts. And they have a tracker, a psyche tracker, which means no matter if they know where he is, they can keep track of him and they know if he's alive or not. And they can follow him around based off of that. And so when he disappears in time, he thinks he's dead. And then he just comes back again, and it's very confusing. I really don't want to spoil this. If you come across this, at all. I'd pick it up. It's a really good read. It's a very interesting read. It's a pretty quick read. All of these old sci-fis are, which is one of the reasons I like them. This is a really good book. I'd pick it up if you get a chance. And if you can read outside while going camping, that's a fun thing to do as well. Alrighty, have a good night.